It's just my way of letting you know. I see you there. And I wrote a friend along to help me
He's still pretty though.
my appreciation the right way. Ladies, Mr. Jamie Foxx. Mr. Foxx.
This is Ron Christopher Allen, a 52-year-old Jackson resident who shot his 24-year-old estranged wife, Malia Bess, to death at her workplace on July 31st, 2025, days after discovering her affair with a maintenance worker at the apartment complex where she worked. The violence that erupted that Thursday morning involved multiple law enforcement agencies and ended with Allen barricading himself with Malia's body for over 2 hours before surrendering to SWAT. But before we get to that horrific morning, let me take you back to February 14th, 2025, Valentine's Day, when Malia and Christopher's story began, because their relationship reveals warning signs that were flashing red long before tragedy struck. Malia Bess was only 24 years old when her life was stolen. Born around 2001 in Chicago, Illinois, she represented a generation of ambitious young women building careers far from where they grew up. Malia pursued education with dedication, graduating from Thornridge High School in Dalton, Illinois in 2019, where she had been an exceptional band member from 2015 to 2017. Her former bandmates and teachers remembered her as a distinguished alumna whose talent, gracious demeanor, infectious enthusiasm, and outstanding leadership left a permanent mark on everyone she encountered. After high school, Malia moved south to Mississippi, enrolling at Jackson State University. This represented her willingness to embrace new opportunities and step outside her comfort zone. She recently graduated from Jackson State, a milestone highlighting her determination to build a stable, successful future. Upon completing her degree, Malia became a leasing and property manager at Westwood Apartments on Robinson Street in Jackson, a position requiring maturity, people skills, and grace under pressure. At Westwood, Malia managed daily operations, interacted with dozens of residents, and created a community within the complex. Residents genuinely loved her, and that anonymous resident who spoke about her character despite fearing for their own safety tells you everything about the terror Christopher's actions created.
Come to work with me as a leasing agent. So usually first I have to pop my way in through the back and get to the office, make sure I have the office door unlocked. I'm usually there at least between 10 to 15 minutes before opening to make sure that, everything's situated. Make sure the blinds are open, office is set up, make sure all the not flyers, but like brochures and everything set up on my desk. I'm checking out to see if any notes was left from security or any residents that may have had any issues last night or wanted to leave, something in the rent box, reading my devotion. And then here I am in my planner, writing down everything that I usually need to do for today, and then I check my emails as well as prospects, make sure we have any applications or if I have any questions, work orders. Have to make sure you check that daily to make sure you're keeping up with the property. And then here we got a move-in today. I'm talking with maintenance to go over if we had any work orders or any move-ins for make-readies, punches, anything like that. And I also had a tour today showing one of our beautiful one-bedroom units that we have available. It's my favorite. I also have leasing tips as an ebook if anybody was interested in more
At
books
just
about
24,
financial freedom.
she demonstrated emotional intelligence and leadership many don't develop until much later. She had her whole future ahead, decades of potential experiences, relationships, accomplishments, and growth stolen by Christopher Allen's choice. Ron Christopher Allen was 52 when he murdered Malia. Born in December 1972, he came from a different generation, shaped by different cultural norms about relationships, marriage, and what it meant when a woman decided to leave. At 52, Christopher was more than twice Malia's age. When Malia was born in 2001, Christopher was already 29, nearly 3 decades into life with established patterns and beliefs. This wasn't just an age gap, it was a generational chasm separating them in life stage, worldview, emotional development, and power dynamics. Christopher had been a Jackson resident for decades, with addresses throughout Hinds County going back years. His residence at the time was on Meadowmont Drive, a modest single-family home where he'd lived since July 2016. He was described as a father of 3, suggesting adult children from previous relationships, though specific family background details remain limited. Christopher had faced his own struggles in recent years, including health issues that would surface in legal proceedings. Christopher underwent hip surgery that led to pain pill addiction, requiring a 28-day New Jersey rehabilitation program. He reported achieving sobriety on July 3, 2025, just weeks before shooting Malia. This addiction caused him to default on payments for a prior DUI conviction, an issue raised during his court appearance after Malia's murder. While Christopher's addiction and health problems are part of his story, they don't explain or excuse the crime that he would soon commit. The relationship between Malia and Christopher began sometime in late 2024 or early 2025. They married on February 14, 2025. Malia documented their marriage on social media, sharing news with friends and family who likely had mixed feelings given the dramatic age difference.
It's just my way of letting you know. I see you there. And I brought a friend along to help me.
He's still pretty though.
My appreciation the right way. Ladies, Mr. Jamie Foxx. Mr. Foxx.
The marriage that began on Valentine's Day lasted less than 6 months before completely falling apart. Friends described the relationship as rocky almost from the beginning, suggesting problems emerged early. Malia confided in close friends about growing concerns that Christopher's behavior was becoming increasingly controlling and threatening. The 28-year age gap created an inherently unbalanced relationship where Christopher held significantly more life experience and power to shape their relationship's direction. Malia, at 24, was still discovering who she was as an independent adult, building her career, figuring out what she wanted from life and partnership. Those words from Manisha Simmons, one of Malia's closest friends, reveal the terrifying reality of Malia's final weeks. She didn't feel safe sleeping next to her own husband. This fear didn't develop overnight. It built gradually as Christopher exhibited behaviors making Malia question her safety. Weeks before Christopher killed her, Malia moved out and went to stay with a friend. For Malia, leaving wasn't easy, and Simmons revealed that Malia didn't want to have to leave him, but felt she had no choice. This shows Malia wasn't casually giving up on her marriage or making impulsive decisions. But leaving Christopher didn't mean freedom. Her decision to move out seems to intensify rather than reduce his concerning behavior. Christopher began harassing Malia at her workplace, showing up at the Westwood Apartments leasing office uninvited in the days before July 31st. This workplace harassment is classic domestic violence pattern where the abuser refuses to respect boundaries and continues asserting control even after separation. For Malia, this created an impossible situation because she needed her job to support herself independently, but Christopher was inserting himself into her professional space, making it impossible to feel safe even at work. The day before Malia's murder, on July 30th, Christopher escalated. He showed up uninvited at the home where Malia was staying, walking in and sitting on the couch as if he had every right. His stated purpose was discussing working things out with Malia, reconciling their marriage. While Christopher seemed calm that evening, something was building inside him that had nothing to do with genuine reconciliation. What Christopher didn't mention was that he'd recently discovered information sending him into a spiral of jealousy and rage. He learned that Malia was involved with someone new, specifically a maintenance worker at the Westwood Apartments leasing office, the same complex where Malia worked as property manager. The maintenance worker was someone she worked with regularly, someone encountered as part of daily professional responsibilities. Their relationship developed in the context of working together, and for Malia, this new relationship represented something she hadn't experienced in her marriage: attention from someone closer to her own age, someone who saw her as an equal rather than someone to control. He made her feel excited about possibilities rather than afraid of consequences. Christopher's discovery of Malia's relationship with the maintenance worker became the trigger pushing him from harassment and stalking into lethal violence. Police would later emphasize that jealousy over Malia's new boyfriend was the primary motive, but this wasn't really about the maintenance worker as an individual. It was about Christopher's inability to accept that Malia had the right to leave him, to move on, to choose someone else. Thursday morning, July 31st, started like any other workday for Malia Bess. She woke up in the home where she was staying with her friend, got ready for work, and headed to Westwood Apartments. She exchanged text messages with Manisha Simmons that morning, the casual, loving communication close friends share without thinking it might be the lost time.
My last text message was this morning. I told her, I said, "You're gonna be fine. I love you." And she said, "I love you too."
Simmons was trying to reassure Malia, provide comfort and hope, having no idea that within hours her friend would be shot to death by the very man they'd been discussing. Just before noon on Thursday, Christopher Allen arrived at Westwood Apartments. Witnesses spotted him near the leasing office moments before he went inside, his presence perhaps not immediately alarming because he'd been there before, harassing Malia in preceding days. But this time, Christopher came with a gun and the intention to use it. When Christopher entered the leasing office where Malia was working, the confrontation was brief and deadly. He didn't waste time with conversation. He shot Malia multiple times, up to 7 shots according to reports, ensuring she wouldn't survive. After killing Malia, Christopher didn't flee or turn the gun on himself, the two most common patterns in murder-suicide situations. Instead, he barricaded himself in the leasing office with Malia's body, creating a standoff lasting over 2 hours, requiring response from multiple law enforcement agencies. During those 2 hours, Christopher sat in that office with Malia's body, her blood covering the space where she'd worked hours earlier. What went through his mind? Was he processing what he'd done, feeling satisfaction at having exerted final control? Beginning to understand how he just destroyed multiple lives, including his own? We may never know. When the standoff finally ended, Christopher surrendered to SWAT without forcing police to breach or engage in a shootout. He simply gave up, walking out to be taken into custody. When he emerged, police noted he was covered in Malia's blood, a gruesome detail speaking to the close-range shooting and the violence that occurred inside that office. Jackson Police Chief Joseph Wade's statement and relief that there was no further loss of life acknowledges how easily this could have become even more catastrophic if Christopher had shot at police or taken hostages. Chief Wade also offered insight into the psychology, stating, "Society has people who don't know how to deal with emotions and don't know how to handle someone wanting to move on." This observation gets at what drove Christopher to murder: his complete inability to process rejection and loss healthily, his refusal to accept that Malia had the right to leave and build a life with someone else, his belief that if he couldn't have her, no one could.
In this situation, we could have barged in, and that would have caused him to possibly open fire on law enforcement, but we didn't. We utilized our hostage team, which did an amazing job at this location. Really wish that we could have done more to prevent this, but we have people that don't know how to deal with emotions.
Remember what I told you at the beginning about this being Jackson's 35th homicide of the year? Chief Wade noted this represented a drastic reduction compared to 71 homicides at the same time the previous year, showing Jackson had made real progress. But this particular murder, domestic in nature, involving a husband killing his estranged wife, represented violence harder to prevent through traditional law enforcement strategies. You can't really police what happens inside relationships until violence has occurred or been credibly threatened. And even then, restraining orders only work if the person respects them or violations get caught in time.
35th homicide of the year compared to 71 this time last year. We've shown a drastic reduction in homicides, but again, this is domestic related. This is a husband taking his wife's life, then putting all of these other people's lives in danger, including law enforcement. Very sad day, but I'm glad that we were able to mitigate this situation without any further loss of life.
Christopher appeared in court on August 1st, 2025 for his initial hearing, facing murder charges. Legal proceedings moved quickly, establishing Christopher killed his wife, as there was never question about who pulled the trigger. During that appearance before Judge June Hardwick, Christopher was denied bond due to what the judge described as the egregious nature of the crime. He was remanded to Hinds County Detention Center, where he remains as of early 2026, deemed too dangerous to release. Christopher also addressed his prior DUI during that hearing, explaining he'd defaulted on payments because of hip surgery and subsequent addiction. He mentioned completing the 28-day rehab in New Jersey and achieving sobriety on July 3rd, weeks before murdering Malaya. A court date was scheduled for January 9th, 2026, though no public updates about that hearing have emerged as of mid-January, suggesting the case remains in pre-trial stages without significant developments. The impact of Malaya's murder rippled far beyond her death. The Westwood Apartments community, where residents had known and loved Malaya as their property manager, was left devastated. That space where they'd gone to pay rent, report maintenance issues, and chat with the kind young woman who managed their complex had become the site of her brutal murder. Malaya's friends, especially Manisha Simmons, used their grief as a platform to warn others in similar situations. Simmons' message was powerful and heartbreakingly specific. Even if you don't feel afraid, even if you can't imagine your partner would actually hurt you, if they threaten you even once, take it seriously.
She did not want to leave him. She had to leave him, and he didn't want her to leave him. She had to leave him because she just had to for her own safety. As we can see, she did not feel safe sleeping next to him.
Manisha Simmons is a close friend of Bess. She said their relationship was rocky, causing Bess to move out of their shared home and in with a friend. Simmons said Allen was also harassing her at work.
He was actually at my house yesterday on my couch.
Sure was.
And we talked about them working the relationship out or whatever, and he left. It wasn't nothing alarming. I didn't feel anything. So
Bess's friends remember her as a mature, career-driven woman and a great friend. Simmons has a warning to those who may be in a similar situation.
Even if you're not afraid, even if by every single shadow of a doubt in your mind, you think that that person would never do that to you, if they threaten you one time, take it seriously.
The 28-year age gap between Christopher and Malaya likely played a significant role in dynamics leading to her death. At 52, Christopher came from a generation with different attitudes about marriage, masculinity, gender roles, and what it means when a woman leaves. He may have viewed Malaya not as an equal partner with autonomy and rights, but as someone belonging to him, whose decision to leave represented an unacceptable challenge to his authority and identity. The decades separating them meant he'd spent his entire adult life developing his worldview before Malaya was even born, making it unlikely he'd adopt to her needs or accept her independence. Memorial services for Malaya were held on August 23, 2025, at New Community Church in Dolton, Illinois, bringing her story full circle to her hometown of Chicago. Leak and Sons Funeral Homes organized services, giving family and friends the opportunity to gather, grieve, and celebrate the life of the young woman they'd lost too soon. Online memorials show hundreds of virtual candles lit in Malea's honor, with people who never met her adding tributes, painting a picture of someone joyful, multifaceted, and deeply loved.
Malia, she was sweet, understanding. I mean, she had the heart of gold, basically. If you didn't have it, she understood you didn't have it. She gave grace. She understood. But I mean, what happened to her, it was terrible. I mean, we wasn't expecting it. And we residents out here, so we most definitely wasn't expecting it. I just hate it.
Christopher's response to discovering the affair reveals the fundamental problem at the heart of this tragedy. For Christopher, Malea's relationship with the maintenance worker wasn't just about her sleeping with someone else. It was about the collapse of everything he believed his life represented, the failure of the traditional masculine role he'd tried to fulfill, the unbearable reality that the young woman he'd married had chosen someone else. His jealousy wasn't really about love or romance. It was about possession, about control, about his inability to accept that Malaya was a human being with her own agency and the right to make choices about her life, even if those choices hurt him. What makes this case so tragic is that neither Malia nor Christopher needed to die or go to prison for their marriage to end. They could have divorced, painful as that would have been. Malia could have left to explore who she was outside of being Christopher's wife, to build a life with someone closer to her age if that's what she wanted. Christopher could have processed his hurt and betrayal through therapy, through support groups, through healthy outlets that didn't involve violence. But in the heat of that July morning, with jealousy and rage overwhelming whatever rationality he possessed, and with a gun within reach, Christopher made a choice that destroyed both their lives and devastated everyone who cared about them. What do you think about this case? Do you think Malia should have seen the age difference between them as a red flag from the beginning? Let me know what you think in the comments section. Click on one of the cards on your screen to see more videos like this.